Starting with Magic Leap. So welcome everyone.
The only secret is the church itself.
And thanks especially to the Cambridge Innovation Center and Adventure Cafe for sponsoring us here for so many years. It's been a great home for Boston VR.
Now it's not just high school club. There you go. Now we have
So, many of you probably already participated in the Reality Virtually Hackathon at MIT. It's coming back again this year, the same weekend, January 17th to the 21st at the Media Lab. This is the biggest XR hackathon anywhere in the world as far as I know. I took that picture in the upper left corner. This is one of the gigantic classrooms at MIT. And these are all participants in the hackathon, all getting ready to get started. Just to give you some idea of the scale of this event. It is a fantastic opportunity, not only for coders, but also for people who are interested in sound and modeling and artificial intelligence, and pretty much every specialty is needed. So they are accepting nominations still, I think, for another few days. So if you've not yet applied, get in very soon.
Definitely.
realityvirtuallyhack.com. They're also looking for volunteers to be mentors and organizers and so on. So if you'd like to join me as a mentor. Also developing is the MedXR. We're not calling it a hackathon, it's a medical prototyping event, which sounds a lot more professional. This event is going to be a large gathering of medical professionals and also VR enthusiasts to rapidly prototype some exciting new solutions in healthcare. This is still kind of coming together. It still just says June. I don't think we have an exact date yet, do we, Jeff? Okay.
And we're having a planning meeting a week from Saturday.
Planning meeting week from Saturday. I think the details are on medxr.io. But if not, just talk to Jeff or I if you're looking to get involved. Next, women in the next reality. Lori, you're already ready.
Hello, so we have an event that we are planning for the last week in January after the hackathon, and it is going to be called Indie for It's Not Done Yet. So the idea is that it doesn't have to be a finished demo, doesn't have to be a finished project. Whatever stage that you're at, bring it and share whatever it is. And when you hear my lightning talk later, you may get an idea of where I got that idea from. Kathy and I got that idea from. So that's it. Look out for that for Women in the Next Realities towards the end of last week in January. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Kathy Bisbee from the Brookline Interactive Group.
Hello. I also brought Alenta with me, so I wanted you guys to know her. She's one of our most dedicated interns, so we're super psyched to have her. This is the wrong address. Yep. So anybody ever made a mistake like that? So we have a survey that we're asking people to fill out. You could win an Oculus Go, there's going to be a drawing, or a free membership at the Public VR Lab. How many of you know the Public VR Lab? Raise your hands. Awesome. So you guys also know there's a hack Dev Jam this weekend?
Yeah.
You guys know? All right.
Saturday.
Talk to Dev.
Come down.
If you want to come.
Right.
And please fill out this survey because we want to know what kinds of classes would really benefit the XR community in Boston. So fill out the survey and let us know, and we're going to be sharing that data with Boston VR so that we can make better services and classes and events for you guys. Okay? Thank you. And Aletta will have them all night.
All right. So this is the announcement for the event at Big. It's our next hack day. Jeff will be leading us off there. And it's from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Right on the Green Line on Tappan Street in Brookline.
Yes, and it's completely unstructured. We just make VR, AR all day long. And we're looking into having classes early on during these dev jams.
Yeah, so if you're a beginner or an expert, come join us. It's open to all. Next is VR Motion Labs Demo Day. And where's our presenter? Robert, are you here?
Right here.
There he is. So I'll let you announce this during your lightning talk.
I can.
But I just want to let everyone know that we are, this is the same day. Oh man, the same day as the hack. So I guess if you're on the, if you're on the South Shore and you want to try racing in an awesome racing simulator, go to Bob's event.
Go to his event, then come here today because we'll be going till 6.
Just don't spend all day on 93. Also coming this May is another edition of the VRX conference here in Boston. And this last year was a fantastic way to learn about how VR and XR is being used in enterprise. Fantastic presentations, really solid 2 days of conference. I had a great time last year. If you are at all interested in applying VR to training in healthcare and simulation, logistics, architecture, all those fields, this is a great place to get started.
I got my job through there by attending.
We'll also soon be announcing a discount code for Boston VR, and also we're probably going to have some sort of networking night like we did last year, where y'all can come in and see all the exhibits. So our next event is January 13th. We're going to be at PTC's swanky new offices downtown in Seaport, and we'll be hosting an event along with the Boston New Technology Group. The sign up is on our site, but also to get in, you have to sign up at the event right on Boston New Technology's website. And finally, my company, Vicarious Surgical, is looking for a VR UI UX designer. We're working on a new type of surgical robot that was recently designated as a breakthrough medical device by the FDA, and it's controlled through virtual reality. It's a really exciting project. So if you or anyone you know is a UX designer, especially in the information architect side of things, please let me know. Lightning talks. I'm going to keep these to exactly 10 minutes. I'm going to use a timer and I'll be nice, and then I'll be a little bit more pulling the plug on you because we have to get through 6 of these, and we're going to try and do it in an hour, so there's still plenty of time for everyone to try Magic Leap at the end and enjoy some of the demos. So first up is Magic Leap. The clock starts as soon as I get my timer open. This is Stuart from Magic Leap.
Hi everyone. I am a friend of the VR meetup. I live in Boston, so I hope to come now and again. I'll give some demos. Big day tomorrow, a lot of announcements from Magic Leap. We're also hiring, so if you see anything online as well, give me an email, send me a message. So any of you using Magic Leap today, spatial computing in your daily work, your daily lives? Anybody use Magic Leap before? All right, so Magic Leap went to market with the term spatial computing. So it's a spatialization of computing. So you're taking digital content, blending that with your natural environment, but that digital content understands your natural environment. It integrates that content into your daily lives. So if you are using Magic Leap, and I think a few of you used it for the first time, there's 2 sensors at the front of the device continuously meshing and mapping the room. So it's very, very different to VR. It's very, very different to AR. And I'm going to show a few slides, a few case studies. But first, I'd just like to introduce Magic Leap and the vision of the company.
We've been on a long journey. In fact, if this story were like most, we'd be reaching the part where we turn back home. But for us, there is no return. Only what lies ahead. And that's a brand new way of thinking.
So Magic Leap for the past 5-6 years developing a lightweight wearable computing device using meshing and reading of a room. You place digital content in that room using eye tracking and head pose. We know where you're looking, to actually place all of that digital content that we only ever experience now via a screen in the world with you.
Magic Leap is more than a headset. It's a new medium, one that brings together our physical and digital worlds. It's a computer that can see what you see and has the power to learn. It's the first step towards a new way to interact with the world. Our story isn't over, and we're just getting started. See you in the magic verse.
So Magic Leap was formed in 2011. Rory Abovitz formed Mako Surgical, which was the DNA robotic arm that did knee replacements. He sold that to Mako Surgical, which Stryker purchased, and then in 2011 formed Magic Leap. They were in stealth mode till 2017. They had about $500 million it invested from Google in 2014 when it was a single pixel floating in the air. Since then, Series C, Alibaba, and AT&T come on board. So you can go to the back bay now. There's Magic Leap devices you can try and test and actually purchase. We have about 1,800 employees now globally through acquisition. We're one of the most robust XR patent portfolios in the world currently, rumored to be about 5,000 different patents. And we're doing another funding round, Series E, right now. So there was a convergence, and this is between the telco networks and computing. So as you can see here, you've gone from mainframe computing to distributed computing, desktops, laptops. On the network side, the rotary PSTN phone, that's what I grew up with in England. My parents still have that phone, I believe. But then you move to the mobile 2G era, and in 2007, AT&T invested in Apple to bring the iPhone to AT&T stores. Apple have just made an investment in Magic Leap to do the same thing, so they're much more of a partner. We have a go-to-market strategy with AT&T. So the convergence, once again, with the 5G enablement, brings you spatial computing and the robust networking speeds for low latency that's going to enhance all the experiences that you have on Magic Leap. Virtual reality, you have a virtual reality set on. Most people have used virtual reality isolated, sometimes tethered to a room or a computer, have no ideology of anything around you, can't collaborate with colleagues. Augmented reality, and I say this to say that there's all good uses for each of these technologies. And virtual reality, you've got Samsung, HTC, doing some great things. Augmented reality, and I apologize, I'm flying through this, so AR Core, you hold up your phone or your tablet and you've got digital content residing in your natural environment, but that digital content doesn't understand your natural environment, doesn't understand that there's a table there or a chair. Then you've got spatial computing, and this is what Magic Leap went to market with, the term spatial computing. Very different than augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality by Microsoft. They wanted this technology to be all day, every day for everyone. So through a collusion, when you put the headset on, it'll scan the room and then place digital content in your natural environment as you would like to perceive it naturally. It also, through occlusion, could be hiding behind the desk, for example. So the lightware, the control, the light pack, you've got 2 world sensors here, 6 world cameras, you've got spatial audio, eye tracking, head pose, gait analysis, gesture control, multiple input modalities. You've got the light pack, that's where a lot of the computed processing goes on. You've got also the control, so some applications use the control, others use hand gestures, just depends on the build. A lot of research was done prior to going to market. It found that after 6 to 18 minutes of using hand gestures to manipulate digital content, people became fatigued, so Magic Leap wanted to give you the option. Ways to develop, Unity, Unreal, we have our own Lumen platform as well, to develop on, as well as the Helio web browser. This is really the strategy and this is really the Magic Leap, what we focus on, the 4 pillars. This is for product design strategy. Sensory fields, you've got the light field, the sound field. We're also working on taste and smell. I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but there's a lot of investment going on in the background around that. Live stream, and I say that to say that the sensory fields gives you a fully immersive experience that you would expect in a natural environment. Live stream, you blend in your digital and physical worlds. You record everything in that environment. So if you're mocking up or designing a car or an aeroplane engine, you could be designing that with colleagues in the same room or geographically dispersed. You could be, through speech recognition, hearing everything that's been going on, record it, and then upload it to a file and send it to your colleagues who weren't there. Human-centered AI, and this is MICA. You might have heard a lot about MICA. So think about Alexis for the masses. Micro is really that human-centered artificial intelligence, taking deep learning, machine learning, understanding preferences about you, and be able to communicate and interact with you on device. This all leads to the big vision of the company, which is the Magicverse. So this is really taking could be a city, cruise ship, campus, and really you're looking at blending your digital and physical worlds, making a digital twin of that physical space, so then you can have different application layers on top. So this is a spatial computing destination where a community of people can come together to experience everything from music, energy, entertainment, sports, whatever it may be. But really this is where you could monetize this environment, right? You don't have to have a Magic Leap device on. You could be using the IoT data and the sensor data and using your phone or a different XR technology to have that digital content and be able to collaborate with that. So this is the Magicverse, much more to come on that. 1 minute. I'll shut up and just play a video. This is the healthcare one. These are all commercial applications that you can find in the Magic Leap world. Download them, ready to go. Every day new applications are coming out. Third-party developers are loading them as concepts of the Magic Leap world. Alright, so once again, I live in Boston, I'm part of this community, I'm happy to talk with anybody, but next time I come I just want to learn, listen, meet you all, have some pizza or healthy food. So thank you all. Any questions, email me. Brilliant, thank you.
So in the announcements at the end of each meetup, we usually say, hey, what do you want to see next? And for years we had a picture of a Magic Leap in there, and we never had a Magic Leap demo until tonight. Well, from Magic Leap themselves. So next we are on to Gesturally Interactive Music with Gregory Osborne.
I'll hear you, Lori. I actually first gave this presentation in Lori's class. So this is Gesturally Interactive Music. This is basically just me talking about a different type of content that you can make in VR and spatial kind of stuff. I'm going to get into it. So the first kind of idea is it's to create music, you either have to have like an instrument in your hand, right, like some kind of medium, or recently you now can use computers, like pointing and clicking and stuff. And to some extent you can kind of define that as a game. Like you have these inputs, you have your keyboard and your mouse, and you kind of mess around in your drop-down menus and music kind of happens. It's a little hard to do it, like just to get into, right, as let's say you're a non-musician. It takes a bit of time to get used to the programs and etc. And so if you want to just like kind of get basic, just like really low-level music creation, there's a couple of like apps that you can download that kind of like make it easier and stuff like that. But it's a little difficult to get really high-level kind of music creation, because that does require some amount of musical kind of education. There are, in VR, there are what are called digital audio workstations kind of traditionally, like something that you can use to make music. What I found about these is that in order to use them to make, like, good music that you would like to listen to and play, you do have to have some kind of already kind of baseline musical understanding. Like there's kind of a hard cap on how cool the music can sound unless you already know what you're doing. So if you're not a musician, there's like only a couple of things that you can really do, and unless you decide to invest the time and be like, all right, I'm going to learn what music theory is and all these kind of various things. What ends up happening is it's just faster to use the 2D digital audio workstation on your computer if you're going to invest that time and effort, because there hasn't really been a tangible benefit to doing this all in spatialized audio. There's benefit for like performance, so like if you're on a stage and you want to set up your performance in spatialized kind of stuff, and you can kind of go around and play the drums and set up your modular synthesizer and twiddle the dials in VR without having an actual thing in front of you. But for like just music creation, it's not quite like a usable tool for people who are just trying to get into music. Another kind of thing I wanted to just touch on before kind of I move on is that 360 videos are interactive, right? Like I think of them as like linear media, because there's not a lot of like, mixing up and this thing plays at this point but maybe not if you do this certain thing. Generally we consider them to be like, a linear experience, but they are interactive in that what you look at defines your experience. And so there's of course like techniques to make sure you're always looking at the right thing, either always having the action right in front of you or very carefully, slowly moving the action so that you're encouraged to turn around, depending on how much you want your actual audience to be moving and listening in that experience. And there's stuff to be learned from that. But I am particularly interested in creating like games and experiences that you don't have to be good at music to enjoy and to like affect music. Like let's say I'm a non-musician, I want to like mess around with music and kind of just have a good time and not have to go through some process of learning music theory and complicated stuff that I don't have time for. I just want to like do something and just kind of see the musical changes and have it be obvious and dramatic, and I don't have to work very hard for them. There are existing music games. Some games are like rhythm matching games, for example, like Beat Saber. It's kind of, you're trying to imitate and you perform the functions and the music continues playing for as long as you do that. And that feels good because you're moving and you feel like you're embodying the music, especially if they set it up correctly, right? You do all you can add in extra spins or whatever, but like you're moving around and it feels as if the music is, you're participating in the music, right? In addition, there's other games that are maybe less kind of rhythm games that are just kind of, you get a system, like for example Chime, I have a picture up here, which is, it's a music game, but the music isn't necessarily like what you're doing as much as you are doing a puzzle, and as you like put stuff into this puzzle and interact with the puzzle, music changes differently based on how you approach this puzzle. Like in this one, like the grid system changes specific parts about the music playback when you solve things and things like that. There's also games that just can whatever it is playing underneath them, you can put like effects and stuff on that you can control, which is fun. But I think the important kind of takeaway from this is that VR has this new opportunity to use just gestures to do music, which is not really something we've had before. Before, you had to either have like an actual instrument that you blow air through, or you have to click around with a mouse and keyboard before. So if you're like a non-musician, there's kind of some physical barriers to you getting into some kind of like low-level interactivity with music. But in VR, we have things like just that, right? Imagine if just this does something musical and you have some kind of level of control over it. So there's kind of a genre of content that's like minorly musically interactive, where like a non-musician could take some amount of ownership over their participation in the experience, right? And there's a couple of tools that you can use for this. One could be just like changing just the vibe of the music based on gestures. There's a couple of just kind of tools that you can use to kind of make really small changes or even dramatic ones. There's just like a couple of ideas, but the idea being, I think we have the opportunity to take this kind of gestural and spatial tracking and hand tracking to just make cool art that you interact with. That you're like, you are exhibiting your, like you're making the environment change to you, right? And the music changes to you, and everything is listening to your actions and your dancing and your movements. And I think we should take advantage of that because there's not only just opportunity to make good art, but also the opportunity to get people, build up a vocabulary of using your hands to control your environment, of you know, getting used to like using your body to communicate and express yourself and things like that. Which is, I mean, that I think just getting people comfortable moving around with spatialized technology is going to be important just for user interfaces in the future. I mean, the kind of the big goal is you just dance music into life, right? Like the entire environment that you put yourself into, like watches your motions and watches your actions and then reacts to that both musically and visually is the idea. And if you can, this is kind of like one last thing, is if everyone kind of gets comfortable with some tools, you can have a bunch of people in the same space, because dancing is kind of a social experience, and you can kind of build a community around it. You can build some good experiences basically in VR for people to kind of share with each other, for people to at least like feel like, you know, some amount of control, some amount of interactivity with their environment. And that's the pitch.
Any questions?
Yeah, questions. I don't know how much time we have. 2 minutes. If there is anyone with questions, by all means.
So you're focusing on more the large motor skills rather than small?
What was that? Sorry. Focusing on more large noticeable differences?
Large motor skills rather than small ones.
It's in my head, it's easier to like explain larger motor skills, right? Like just gesture like that. It's harder to explain, like twist your wrist in such a way, or move the slider up in this way, or pinch it and then drag it, as opposed to just like, you know, especially if you remove the kind of fine motor control necessary. Like if you just have this big old wall to the left of you, that as long as you gesture in that direction, whatever raycast you're sending from your hand just kind of hits it, right? And that, just use that as just like an interaction. Or if you want to like, because the advantage of VR is you have lost the trackpad, right? You don't have to worry about your mouse going off the side of your desk, right? And it's a lot easier to make like changes, like if you have this amount of space to move to exert control over this amount of space to move to exert control, right? Like there's really like, we only have limited amount of like precision over here. So if you're going to be using VR for interactions, you may as well take advantage of this space, right? Any other questions?
Yeah. You said there are just a lot of your workstations that run in VR. What are some that are worth looking at?
Axa Infinite Instrument. I can go back and I think I have a picture of it. Yeah, Axa Infinite Instrument. There was also Soundstage, which they stopped working on it and stopped developing on it. But if you're interested in VR DAWs, you can check that out. See what they did. Like one of the advantages is you can like set up, you know, in real space, like a performance space for you, which is not something easy to do like just digitally in a screen. Like it's like, this is the instrument I use for that, this is the instrument I use for that, and it can all be electronic and in a space. That's one of the primary advantages of that. I think that's it.
That's it.
Thank you.
And we're doing good on time so far. Next up is Lori.
Woohoo!
Mixed media live performance with VR.
Hello. So I'm very happy to follow up after Greg, because it's a really good connection to the kind of work that I'm doing and the project that this is about. So what I'm going to show you is about a Berklee Faculty Fellowship project that that I've been working on this year from Office of Faculty Development at Berklee College of Music. And when you look at each one of those words in that really long title, then you will understand some of the things I'm trying to bring together, and that it's a project for prototyping. So I'm not working towards a performance, but I'm working towards a series of prototypes that are scaling up. And when I said I would do this lightning talk, I was like, yeah, because like last Thursday, I was doing like the first big prototype, and sure, I'll talk about it on Monday. That seems like a great idea. But I actually don't have any of the like nice video assets and other things like that, or the audio recording. But I'm going to talk about it anyway. So it's called Reality Shift. This particular project is called Reality Shift, and it's a project that we've been working on in a course I co-teach with a member of the dance faculty at Boston Conservatory. The course is Dance and Technology Lab. And there are also two Berklee College of Music students, Nathan and Pedro, who are interested, came to an event, and they came up to me and said, hey, I would love to work on whatever it was I had been talking about, and stopped me in the hall. And I said, that's awesome, because I was just thinking about what am I going to do for music for this, reality shift thing. So they came. You'll see some pictures in just a second. So here are Nathan and Pedro, and they're interested in thinking about immersive music in terms of multiple speakers, into like Atmos and some of all these fantastic things, and so quadraphonic music. And so we set up in one of the rooms that have 4 speakers, and are set up for that at Berklee. They also had an iPad app and had created real-time electronic instruments that were controlled by the dancers, by the movers. Yeah, which we duct taped to the dancers' wrists, because we didn't want them to have to hold it, Although I actually had a whole idea about that. And then, oh no, I need to request access to my own thing somehow. I don't know what the best way to do this is.
Switch camera.
Switch, okay. And now sign in. Well, this is like the best part of anything, right? Is watching somebody type. And let's see, this is one I always wish. First of all, I could do 2 things at the same time. And second of all, that I knew a really good joke that I did. And I'm really hoping I remember my password. Well, no, I'm just trying to find, where's the exclamation point on your keyboard? It's just not what I thought. Oh, okay, it is where I thought it would be. Okay. No. Yes, please hold the mic. Is there some way that I can do this off to here, and I can show you the next slide just for you to look at something? Oh, okay. I'm going to show you the video at the end. How about that? Cool. So we had three environments that we talked about with the students, and kind of came up with the idea of a city. And I've been working this semester with sort of like going back to Bauhaus and various other design principles of circle, triangle, square stuff. And so I've been forcing all my students to do things around circle, triangle, square. And so we have the square for the city, and then the triangle for the jungle scene, and then for the cave, the circle, right? So here is where it comes into the VR component, and I only got so far with this on Thursday, but I mean, I still have many months to work on this, and we'll get further. So this is a student, the first stage I was trying to get to for Thursday, I got to this part, which was having the 3 scenes which I built in Unity be projected onto a screen as this is the environment that you're in. even though they're just in this room, right? So that was that, and so we had one student who could not see where she was in actual space, but everyone else was pretty careful about her. And on the screen, this is the city, part of the city environment. Right. Then phase 2, which I did not get to, would be when the dancer is able to have be controlling an avatar that's in that Unity environment in real time. And I made a bunch of like kind of abominations with like, you know, different kinds of inverse kinematic avatars. Maybe some of you have done the same. And I did not bring those into the mix on Thursday. And then this is a screenshot I took. The hand was like, one hand was stuck, but this is like a mirror scene, and in the jungle scene, right? And so these are the things I'm planning on doing in phase 3 and moving forward. So networked multiplayer, right? With real time with avatars who are controlled by the dancers, right? Having both remote and co-located dancers and audience, so people who are experiencing it only in VR, right? And people who could be anywhere, and then people who are there live, and then some kind of AR component. So I thought I had everything figured out with this one thing, Normcore. Has anyone tried this or used it? Well, so now I'm asking for help, which is the next part of this for afterwards. I don't have a demo, but I have a plea or a request for assistance and help from our wonderful community here to help me get to the next stage. So I'm looking for some ideas for how to solve my networking and multiplayer issue. As I say, I was trying to work with Normcore. I felt like I got like only so far, but with the kind of avatars I wanted, I couldn't quite get there. And then what kinds of solutions people have come up with. I mean, there are a few different, you know, assets. So I did try Final IK, which has VR IK, and human, whatever the humanoid one is. There's another one that I use, VR Passer. It used to be called VR Passer. I'm not sure if it is still VR Passer. Well, anyway, if anyone has any ideas for either of those, then I would be really happy to do that. Now I'm going to try to log into my Google account. And I guess I do want that still near me. I still want to talk, even though I'm going to do this as well. But I had some like kind of high-level issues and questions. A minute and 20. If only I could do both of these things at the same time. One of the high-level questions I have that I want to think about is like, what does it mean for a performer to be in VR, right, and be occluded? You know, what kind of experience would that be if they could see other performers in VR as well, right? What would that be like for people? What would it be like for the audience? What would be a good interaction for the audience? Right? Would it be something that they would actually, like my model was that they would be able to look at some things with AR on their phones, but they wouldn't go into the space that the dancers were dancing, because that's, you know, like dangerous and uncool just in general. But, you know, what would be like a good interaction? And I think that's something that I've been to performances and experiences. I'm not sure if anyone's ever gotten that quite to a good balance. I think that's a really tricky one. So that's something to really think about. You know, what does it mean to perform? Often we want to have like the technology take a back seat, but when someone is holding up a phone or another device or is wearing something on their heads or something in their hands, that doesn't really happen. It puts it foremost. So, you know, how do you use that as part of the performance, part of the experience? How much like physical, there's my timer, how much physical props are necessary, and at what point can we really do that with the Quests? Okay, I'm going to stop, and maybe I'll send the video around to people.
We'll play it.
Oh, we'll play it?
We'll play it afterwards.
Oh, okay, that's great.
After we go through them all, then you can log in and take your time and get it all running.
Thank you.
Woohoo!
Next up is Bob Moore with VR Motion Labs.
So I've seen many of you before, and I build racing simulators. I've been doing this now for about 4 years, and what I wanted to do today was just kind of bring you up to speed on where we are right now, how we're using, what is a racing simulator, and how we're using them for actual race training. We're going to start out with a video. This is a typical day at the track. This is a training day.
He was pushing a lot. He was on the edge with the car.
711. This is down a right-hander. Actually, it's easy flat. So you're going, even with shitty tires, easy flat going down. Felipe was like, trust me, he was like, whatever the angle is there, you can make that corner flat.
I got a heavy crash, back crash. Copy, Mike. Are you okay? I'm fine. I pulled over. Turn 11.
Fucking ending. And I was like, Felipe, yeah, so whatever you said, whatever angle you have, it doesn't work.
I thought it was safe to go flat through there.
Mm-hmm.
So I kept my foot planted down.
I could see he was like worried, like, shit, did I just give this guy the wrong info? And then, of course, we put the video up. You're lifting, huh? And I lifted. I lifted going into the corner or just coming out by the apex. And then I lifted as I drifted wide onto the green section past the rumble strips. And then I kind of did this weird thing of engaging throttle and lifting, and that caused an upset to the car. And we had some load on the front, and then the rear snaps away. He was not able to catch the car.
So he was driving the 911 GT3 Cup car. This car is a handful, and Michael doesn't have a heck of a lot of experience with it. So why did he crash? There wasn't anybody that caused that crash. He was just driving. It was inexperience. It's inexperience at this track, and it's inexperience in the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car. And had I spent time with Michael in one of my simulators with this car, this would not have happened. The simulations have gotten good enough that we can model all the physics. The tracks are all laser scanned. All of the visual markers are there. He would know his brake points. He would know his apex points. He would know what gear to be in, and he would have experienced this crash, but it would have been in a simulator in view. So my number one design goal is to make it feel real. When I built the simulator, I did not want you to pick up bad habits. This is not an arcade ride. This is a simulator. It's built for racers. So this we're looking at is our model M1. This is a production model here. It's 3 degrees of freedom, which is really all you need to do this type of racing. I specifically work with GT racers. This platform includes pitch, which is this movement here. It includes roll, which is this movement here. And it includes traction loss. So there's 2 platforms here. There's a pivot point up front. And what happens is you can feel the back end step out. So when the back end starts to go, you're going to feel it. You put that on with a VR headset, and you'll notice also a steering wheel that's, I mean, that motor right there weighs 33 pounds, so it's giving you really, really hard, strong feedback. and you've got a pedal set that's a very high-end pedal set. It feels real, and it's really kind of amazing. So in order to do it, you've got to use high speed, low latency motion. There can't be any perceived delay, or it doesn't work. And all of our motion is driven by the simulation telemetry. We also capture all the telemetry so we can see everything that you do. This is a static racing simulator, also very, very good. It just doesn't have motion, so the level of immersion isn't there. But it's still a good training tool, and it's an awful lot less money than a 3DOF simulator. So we primarily use iRacing for all of our training. And the reason I like iRacing so much is they laser scan all their tracks. And they've got tracks from all over the world, all the major tracks. They have very precise car and suspension physics, as well as very precise tire physics. This is all very, very important to get these simulations right. And the other thing that's really neat is the adjustable car setup. So racers actually use this to set up their cars. And the car setup is really, really important. You can experiment with it. Like in that 911 Cup car that we were just watching, the brake bias is a critical setting, and everybody's different on the way they actually handle the brake. And so this is a great, useful tool for teaching people, how to make setup changes and how to communicate with their race engineers. So I've been working with the Porsche Club of America, where in fact I was their sort of their guinea pig with their electronic driver education program. And they've got a whole sim racing series that they set up this year. They're very big on their driver education. They have a lot of driver events, and they want to make sure that people, when they're out there, feel comfortable, confident, and they're progressing. So this is all new, and it's tremendous fun. We race, our races are typically 1 hour long, so it gets pretty intense. There's some really, really good racers involved here. The benefits: you're going to learn the race line, you learn the brake points, you learn your shift points, you learn, and you can learn the dry line, the wet line. It's pretty amazing, and you can experiment. You can turn around and go, oh, let me go look at that corner again. I didn't feel like I entered that corner properly. It's really cool. You can safely learn to race with others. So with the VR headset on, I look over here, I see the guy next to me. It feels like I'm in the cockpit. Learning to race with people around you is it's intense. The mental drain here is phenomenal when you get actually into racing. It's going to build confidence. You're going to feel comfortable on the track. You'll learn track etiquette. How do I go to the pits? How do I pull out of the pits? How do I let somebody go by me? What's the safe way to do that? And you also develop the mental acuity and stamina. It is very, very, very difficult to race for an hour straight with guys that are really, really good. The mental drain is intense. I would have never envisioned how intense it was until I actually did it. Also physical conditioning. Your arms, your shoulders, we're giving you a lot of feedback through that steering wheel. We can adjust the actual strength of the wheel, but it really helps to build up your muscles. Last thing I wanted to show, how much time do I have? Oh, perfect. So this is a video of, on your left side is a simulation, and on the right side is an actual car. And so you'll see the level of reality here that we've got. This is the audio from the simulator. And now that's the actual car. So that's it. We're down in Plymouth, Mass. We've got simulators set up. People book time in them for coaching sessions and all that, and then we also sell the simulators. Typically, racers are the guys that buy these things. Price points like in the $35,000 range.
Do we need humans to race, or can you now just
Sorry,
literally...
we don't have time for questions. We're just at 10 minutes. But he'll be here afterwards, and you can find him after the show.
He also has a valve index.
Yes.
I'm very jealous. I haven't tried that yet. Next up is Casey Armstrong with microtasking in VR.
Hello, everybody. I'm a technical writer. I'm new to the world of XR and VR, but I come from the crowdsourcing industry, and that's kind of what I'm going to talk to you about today. I want to inspire VR developers to take a harder look at crowdsourcing, microtasking in particular. Jump into it. So microtasking is part of crowdsourcing, the crowdsourcing umbrella. Other versions of crowdsourcing are open innovation contests. That's something else that uses a crowd of people to get something done. In the case of the X Prize, they have inventions that they need invented, and they have something like the Tricoder X Prize was one of them. That was a handheld device that could diagnose common diseases. They go to the crowd and find the best answer, best invention. And everybody knows what Kickstarter is. That's crowdfunding. That's getting your funding from the crowd. And social search is Quora or like Yahoo Answers. That's going to the crowd for answers to specific questions. So microtasking. Microtasking is when you split a large project into smaller uniform tasks. Tasks are usually done online. They take a few seconds or a few minutes to complete. We'll see some examples in a second. Microtaskers are usually paid with cash, other benefits like game credits, or it's a volunteer action that's known as micro-volunteering. And this microtasking platform has been the most popular in the press, even though it's not the largest provider of microtasking. How many people here have heard of Mechanical Turk? Oh wow, okay, great. Well, on Mechanical Turk, you can get tasks done. It's very popular with college researchers who need participants for their studies. But I like how they split up their website calls to action. You can either be here to make money, to do these small tasks, one little bit of money at a time, or you can come here to get work done, sourcing the crowd. That work. And I'll show you an example here. This is an example task, or HIT, they call it, Human Intelligence Task. Here someone wants to recognize what's in this image. They probably have a huge database of these images and they just need them sorted for advertising purposes or whatever it might be. So as a human with human intelligence, you can look at this photo and say, why, that's a bed in a bedroom. So you can go through this list and pick the appropriate category, probably pick bed here. So not thinking like a corporation, but someone just doing a fun project. I stumbled upon someone doing this a long time ago. They were creating a coloring book, and they went on to Mechanical Turk. And in order to create their coloring book, they asked everyone to draw in Sharpie on a standard sized piece of paper a picture of a bug. Just something unique and fun and cartoony. And at the end, they collected everyone's drawings. They submitted the drawings, by the way, by scanning it on a scanner and uploading it to the service. But one cool thing to realize here is you could create a coloring book, for example, about a topic like bugs. And you could have a 500-page coloring book within an hour or two just by submitting a request. And that's the idea of kind of like parallel computing human style. Popular uses of microtasking. The biggest users are data scientists. They use this for labeling and cleaning data. A lot of people think of this AI revolution as being mostly algorithms, but all that data needs to be cleaned. And there's a lot of people behind the scenes applying their human intelligence to make things understandable for the AI. Product descriptions are also popular. And there's a lot of things out there where you play a video game and it trains an AI. Fold It is one example where you can fold proteins, and it helps scientists solve issues within. And these are some of the popular, biggest companies. Swagbucks and Figure 8, I believe the last time I checked, have the most microtasking going on, millions of tasks a day. So take that kind of workflow and that concept and put it into VR. What would that look like? As far as I know, it doesn't really exist yet, but we all think about the future of work in VR, but we think of long-term tasks or specialized tasks. But there's already a bunch of work going on online on these, Excel spreadsheet-looking things and simple forms. What if we brought that to VR? What would that mean? For one, it would be more immersive. It would be way more fun than looking at a screen and typing things. 3D objects come into play. Sound could be more fun, more satisfying. Oh, and social VR. You would have more opportunity to work on tasks in groups and not have the formal forms to think about anymore, but you could figure out problems socially through conversation, how we do in groups every day. It's more visual, more interactive. For example, instead of sorting pictures by clicking and dragging, you could pick up a photo and say, oh yeah, that's a primate. I'm going to throw it into the primate category and throw it like a frisbee across the room. That's way more fun. Oh, and in terms of getting work done, you might be able to spend more time in an environment like this without getting bored, without giving up, and that means more work's getting done. How many people have tried Job Simulator? Awesome. If you haven't, definitely check that out. So advantages if you're a VR developer or a VR business. This is a business model where people don't have to come in and buy an expensive game. The money is coming from the people there to get work done. They provide the money to get the tasks done, and then you can have a platform where you collect a cut of it. Also, users are highly motivated in an environment like this. They're getting work done, they feel productive. Money could be involved, or they're trying to make money for a nonprofit. I briefly had a startup where people could come onto my platform and people would do these micro tasks in order to raise money for their favorite nonprofit, and they would compete, like YMCA versus Goodwill, that sort of thing. Rewards. And this is also just a fun way to experiment with the future of work within very, defined boundaries, which could help you as a programmer to think of your goals and to direct behavior and controls and that sort of thing. So things that would help this along, I think maybe there's more than I know of, but working with web-based APIs in VR would be really cool. So for example, if we could walk down a hallway and look at Craigslist postings that were live, had all the relevant information, like you would look at museum paintings on a wall walking from post to post. Because if you were a microtasker, for example, and your task was to find a washer dryer that didn't have dents in it, that claimed to work, that would be a very intuitive way to do that. And if you could combine those two worlds of websites, relational databases and all that together in VR would be really cool. Or flying over a Google map to identify things. That also involves using screens in VR. That's 1 minute. And lastly, there are ethics issues with my startup. I, of course, went straight to making the money for nonprofits, so you got around that issue a little bit. But if you're going to pay people in VR, you have to think about the ethical issues behind that, and it can get hairy. So in conclusion, millions of people are doing real work every day online in the form of microtasks. So why not bring them into VR? It'll be way more fun. They can get their work done in a more social and rewarding environment. I'm on Twitter at crowdsourcingcasey. Thanks for listening to my talk.
And next is Wrap VR to John and Julie.
I'll keep this super short. These are all hard to follow up, and it's pretty minor. Dealing with VRCK sucks. They're all really annoying. They don't all work with each other. It takes a while to get up and going. There's different controller models, different prefabs, all this kind of stuff. I'm sure you've all done it before. I'll update an SDK, it'll stop working. I wanted something that would just deal with that. So I kind of made my own thing. It's like VRTK, but way more minimal. It's called Wrap VR. It'll basically, it won't do everything for you, but it'll do kind of what you need if you want to get something done in a day. It's kind of structured like VRTK, and it'll do like basically controller input and like basic interactions. So setting it up is kind of in the VRTK style. You just drop one of these camera prefabs in. The camera prefab, camera rig is kind of like your head and your hands. Define one of these things. So it works with Steam, Oculus, and Daydream. It needs support. Works on mobile and PCs. And you turn that on in Unity, and you're good to go. And all you do is you have interactive items. You can get trigger down. You can get gaze. On the last line there, I'm doing input control. So every time I input, press the touchpad, I get a callback. And that's it. This is all I need to do in VR. I don't need any fancy stuff. I'll say if you're going to make like a real game you plan on selling, you should probably use VRTK because it will grow a lot better with you. But if you want to get something done in a day, it's really easy to use and it just works. Hopefully, it's on GitHub. It works with these versions. I haven't updated Steam, but nobody else has either, so it's Steam 1.2. The latest Oculus and latest Daydream. And that's pretty much it. It should work. If it doesn't work, yell at me on GitHub. But it's there, it's free. You just clone it into a project, and that's it. I use it in my thing called Go For A Walk, and I'm going to be demoing here. It's kind of like a really VR experience. I didn't know there was so much music stuff going on. I won't talk about that. It's okay. I'll be demoing. That's what it looks like. And so yeah, just like a quick overview. The only, like I won't do everything for you, but the three things that I do give you are grabbing objects. You can physically grab an object and throw it. You can do teleportation, and you can do teleport. I just said grabbing and teleporting. That's pretty much all I want. So that's all it'll do for you. It won't do like every different kind of teleporting like VRTK does, but it'll just do basic, get you over there with the screen fade. And that's not for me. That's pretty much it. I can give some time to Professor Landay to do a video if you want. I don't want, I mean, if there are any questions. But you can just try it out, and if it doesn't work, yell at me. Or are there questions?
People have questions for you.
Does it just do like tracking and velocity and maybe
it does,
acceleration?
Yeah, so there's tracking that's angular and physical velocity, translational velocity. And it does all the buttons like trigger, touchpad, grip, menu button. I think that's pretty much it. Touchpad, and it'll do like the touch position as well. Because that's all pretty standard across these controllers. It's just like, I mean, that's what VRTK does, right? It unifies it in a similar interface. But I tried using VRTK once and it didn't work with Daydream, and nobody knew why it wasn't working with Daydream, and no one's going to fix it. And I just like, that's what really infuriates me about software development. So I just wanted something that worked. And was simple. That's what this is. Okay.
Anyone else?
All right, so a few minutes ago, someone asked if they could also do an unscheduled lightning talk. Are you still here? Yeah? So here's what I'm thinking. Because we probably still have a bunch of people that haven't tried Magic Leap, I was thinking we go through the rest of the Boston VR slides, give you some updates, because there was one meetup I forgot about next month. Then we'll watch Lori's video, and then you can jump in and do yours. But in the meantime, people will quietly get back in line and start doing their Magic Leap demos again. Is that cool? Everybody like that? All right. Okay, we need your support. To be honest, we have been operating barely in the black and kind of in the red for quite some time, and we could really use your help. We've been around now since January of 2014. It was our first meetup over there. What used to be Microsoft. We somehow are one of the biggest VR meetups in the world, right up there with New York and London. I don't know how that happened, but I think it says a lot about all of us and our, enthusiasm for this technology. We need to continue running the monthly hacks and allow everyone to learn about this technology, support Big with their loaner library of VR gear, and really also help to promote Boston. We have a lot to offer, especially in healthcare and the arts, so I think this could be an excellent place for VR to grow. So please consider making a donation. You can go onto PayPal, Jeff at publicvr.org. We'll go to Jeff, who is our treasurer, and he can give you a 501c3 tax-deductible donation receipt. And also on the table there where all the food was, there is a Venmo code that you can scan if you're a youngster and Venmo is your thing. So thank you. Next, we have some t-shirts. Tony, is Tony here? T-shirts. So he has some t-shirts left in most sizes, and all proceeds go to Boston VR. Volunteer opportunities. We are very much looking for a bunch of different roles, but also especially leadership roles. So if you're interested in really taking on some organization of meetings and getting more involved, we're really looking for some new blood for our organization to kind of come in and take us in a new direction maybe. This could include an event host, lead organizer role, marketing, software and tech, and helping out with the hacks. And also just people to come and show your demos. Even if they're just kind of works in progress and they're not done yet, this is a very welcoming, opening place to show people and get some good early feedback from both novices and experts alike. If you're interested in these roles, talk to Jeff and I. We have a podcast called the Virtual Reality Podcast. The Virtuality Podcast, recorded locally here at Berklee College. We are all over social media. Follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn. And finally, our staff here. So I'm Jeff Bale, your host. Jeff Jacobson is our finance and outreach lead. Jerry, I don't think, is Jerry here? I haven't seen him. Not here, okay. Alan.
You're standing in front of it.
Oh, sorry, these are all the people. Alan is our food acquisition grub master, who provided us all with great food tonight. Greg Osborne is doing publicity and filming. We are live. John Joseph working on AV, and Jose doing operations and showing Quest demos in the back. Thank you, Jose. And Tony on the shirt sales. Are those going to be right there? All right. So the Demo Fest, it sounds like we have 4 demos if I'm counting right. We got Magic Leap over there, we have hand tracking there, and we have Quest demos back there, and then we also have John's demo. Where are you going to be? You can take one of these rooms if you want. Yeah, sure. Grab a room, because then you get like a little nice quiet area. You can take this. This is a sound studio here. You can take this one.
Hey Jeff.
Yes.
We've got some from the Public VR Lab too. Demos.
All right.
If people
You're
want
to be right there? Or you can take a room too. You can take that room. Why don't you take that room over there?
Okay.
And John, you take that one right there. And any other demos we don't know about? You got a demo. Do you want to take that room down there? All right. And finally, and maybe most importantly, we're going to meet up at Mead Hall, just down the street, maybe 3-4 minutes walk. Right after this, starting at 9 o'clock. So please join us there and meet up for a beer. Thanks everyone for coming. We're going to jump into Lori's video, and then we're going to do one more bonus round lightning talk. And in the meantime, please, quietly get back into lines and continue doing demos. Another try. I don't think I got the password. So last time, was it last time we were at Berklee for our meetup? That was fantastic. It's always good to be in new venues. We've been here for a long, long time, but it's always good to reach out and get new audiences and see exciting new things. You can just do an incognito window if you want.
Is my phone over there?
So somehow, if you try to email a document you haven't shared, it's like, hey, you haven't shared this. And if you try to put it into a presentation, it's like, oh, that's fine. We'll just come up and not let you play it.
I'm glad there's such good security for
So our bonus round, do you want to come up and describe your talk real quick while she's logging in? It might take a minute to get this going. Were you going to show slides or are you just going to talk? All right. She looks like she's close. Yeah, here we go.
Okay. I'm just going to go ahead then.
Yeah, go ahead.
The performance part like that went on for, well, kind of improvisation part. The dancers had to learn how to use their instruments. I mean, they hadn't used them before. And that was actually really fascinating to watch. What movements and then how to make it into something that was aesthetic, you know, rather than just, which was very similar to the kinds of things that Greg was talking about. Like, you know, what it is that just sort of like somebody would do, you know, right? And then what it is that like dancers would do and how they were interacting with each other and you know, using all like the vertical space as well as the space in the room. So it's like a whole thing. It's really interesting. And then how they could guide other people who, you know, having choreographed some movements or something. And I want to do motion capture like with that, and then have maybe avatars in VR that are doing those motions, you know, and then other people you could follow them, follow the pre-recorded. But anyway, so thank you very much.
Awesome, so last minute entry here, so I'll just keep it really short. Essentially, right now I am working on a venture with two of my colleagues from Harvard and MIT on an issue that I'm quite interested in. It's a very simple premise, and it's just that our workforce is not really prepared for the challenges of the coming decades. So how do we get there? And as I talk to companies, I ask them kind of what's the biggest skill you would want people to have coming in here. As I asked some of my professors, like what skills are going to be really important for the future with globalization and automation, they were kind of saying the same thing. And that's that people need to have these interpersonal skills. They need to be able to collaborate effectively and communicate effectively and lead and work together. And all of these things that we don't really have a great way of teaching people, both in school, but especially in the workplace where I'm looking at some of the applications. So the idea is how can we create something that's kind of powerful, that's going to push people to reflect and actually change their practices. So we decided on VR as a tool because it's very scalable, it's very standardized, and it's very experiential. It's immersive, it ties to a lot of research and embodied cognition. Because what we really want is not just to deliver some information on a plate, but really have some actual behavioral change. So we just finished our first prototype, very technically simple, but embodies some of the ideas that we're looking at. Had our first demo at MIT on Friday, got some great feedback. So I'm really interested in just hearing what people think, and people from very diverse backgrounds. Come January, we're going to start reaching out to companies and doing some user testing there. So if you'd like to give it a try, grab a partner, and we'll just be over there. Thank you.
Maybe you can put your contact info and a comment on the meetup page so people can find you later on.
Sure thing.
Thanks everyone very much for coming, and hope to see you at Mead Hall starting at 9 o'clock. Enjoy.